Hey everyone, Scott here again. So going a bit stir crazy, being locked in my house. Hopefully everyone is doing all right out there. But was going to end the blueprinting 101, but I had actually a couple of requests to look at a Windows and Windows version. Now, look, as you would have noticed, nearly everything I've demoed has been Linux based, and if you probably haven't noticed, most people when they're doing the automation examples and blogs and other things are usually using Linux based, more so than not based on Ubuntu. But the reason for that is because it's easy, right, and it's quick. It takes a lot less resources, and obviously when we're dealing with what is a predominantly command line only OS, there's a lot of really quick cut and paste snippets and automation you can put in there, right? So there's no real secret around that. But what I had realized, and from some of the comments that I've got and a couple of emails, was, could you show us a Windows 1 working, right? So I go, cool, sweet, we'll do, because look, like it or not, majority of enterprises out there are still majority Windows based. I definitely know nearly all of the high-end automation customers I deal with, it is 80 to 90% Windows. They're starting to do a bit more Linux-based stuff, but a lot of applications, a lot of things still written in .NET, a lot of legacy stuff as well that they want to automate. But even things going forward, you know, they're still provisioning Windows-based Server 2019. And look, Windows has come a long way, right, with the automation. And I always typically tried to have, especially the stuff that I released to VMware Code and other things, was usually Windows based, because you know you'll see a lot of WordPress demos or blueprints out there, but they're all Linux based, and so I did a Windows one, right, because it is a lot harder to get that to work. So what I have here, moving on, is a Windows based deployment, and as you can see, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Now I've done nothing different here. I've dragged on the cloud native or cloud agnostic, network. I've got the cloud agnostic virtual machine as well. But we can see here I've got my Windows image of Windows 2019 sitting there. And one of the questions was, can you do one joining domain, installing IIS and SQL? I just thought, hey, I'll do all three, right? Let's get it all over and done with, and I'll show you how we can do this. So there's obviously a couple of options we've got. We can use, if you've got config management stuff like Ansible and Puppet, you can use them to run on Windows. Now unfortunately they are, from my understanding, coming back, but under 7 we had software components. Now software components are awesome, and that's why they're coming back, and they really play nicely and have a side-by-side relationship with config management tools. What software components allowed us to do was to very simply and easily run scripts, essentially, is what it was, on a single machine or multiple machines. But what it did for us was it enabled us to do very complex deployments, like cluster-related deployments. It didn't matter whether a machine was being provisioned at Azure or AWS or vSphere or all three, across multiple different networks and all the rest of it, right? We could have one script run with its usual inputs and outputs, and then we could map those outputs to an input on a machine that's sitting on the other side of the world to run its thing, and then for that other machine to wait till the output of that is run to come back to then, to then have them come back as an input onto another section, right? So you could have it took care of that logic of having to put dependencies and where you're getting inputs and output variables from. It did all that for you. Now, not saying that, Ansible and Puppet can achieve those sort of things, but in my experience, it's generally been a lot more complicated because you have to write a lot of that logic yourself, to be able to do those very highly complex, highly distributed, clustered-like deployments. So, in lack of not having that, what we do have to work with today is cloud-init. So for Windows, it's called cloud-base-init, right? So we have, I have a template. Now there is a couple of blogs talking about how to install cloud-based-init for vRealize. Now, they did not work for me. I'm not saying that they're wrong. Basically I followed it all to the point until it said to sysprep it. Now, I'm not sysprepping it. And this works for me, right? I'm not getting any issues of NICs not being disconnected. I'm joining the domain. I'm doing everything, right? So how I'm doing that is using customization specs. So why not? If you're especially deploying to vSphere, make use of something that is available that can make your life easier. So essentially, I just installed cloud-based-init. I then changed the config, so I'd use the OVA properties as well as the plugin and all the rest of it, and then I just turned it off, shut it down, and now that's my template. Right, I didn't do any sysprep or anything like that. I'll let customization spec take care of that. And the great thing is it all works. It works flawlessly. So we have our machine here. It's Windows. You can see I'm using the customization spec property. Now, under a cloud machine, this property does not come up automatically. It's a property of a vSphere machine, so one of these here. So if I was to drag this vSphere machine over, and look at this, there it is. If I hit enter there, I'll be able to see that customization spec comes up here. For a cloud machine though, so let's delete that one. For a cloud machine, or a cloud agnostic machine, sorry, if I was to add that in and I go to properties, that customization spec isn't in there, but adding it in does work. Okay, so there's tip number one there, or probably number two actually by now. So we use that, and I'm using it to do 2019. So this is going to do all the domain, the sysprep, the domain join, everything that I need to do, set admin password, run any scripts that I needed to run, but I'm not running any. The thing that customization specs in vSphere has been doing for the last 10 years, right? So nothing out of the ordinary there. I then got my normal, my flavor, and Windows 2019 there. I've got my constraints, so I'm going to vSphere because the comments that I got was specifically for vSphere. And then we do our cloud config. Now, to make cloud-based-init work, you'll probably see a bit of a difference. So if we actually, I'll duplicate this tab here, and I'll get up another blueprint. Let's get up this one. So I'm actually running on vRealize on-prem on this one, same code base, so all good. But say we look at here. So this is the difference. We've got cloud config, and then we can put packages, and then we have a run CMD to do our scripts, right? Cloud-based-init, on the other hand, I don't have that particular setup. I've got hashtag, and I'm using PS1 sysnative. So this is basically telling cloud-based-init that I want to run in PowerShell, right? So if I could still have run CMD in there, right? And it will just throw an error in the log saying that's an invalid command, and it will just keep going, executing next command. You won't actually get a full fail. It will just fail that particular line. So I've got this in here now. This is all on the cloud-based-init website. Having that, and you can also do things like write file, and you can and all that works for me. And some of the VMware based examples that's what they've done. They've just done a write file. I haven't seen anyone actually run commands, so this is why I chose to run commands. Creating a user, writing a file with the particular contents that you want, that's easy. Let's actually do something a bit more advanced. So now we got that, and then literally it's the same. Except for one thing, which run CMD requires us to have an indent with a dash. This doesn't, right? And again, this isn't something that you're going to find in a lot of places. I will probably write a blog up on this just so people can copy and paste all this stuff out, right? So we've got install. Here I'm installing IIS. And again, this is just a base install. Now there's obviously plenty of PowerShell scripts out there. You can actually, there's a script execution too that you can do, but I thought I'd just do it from scratch. You just need to put in the lines that you want to run, right? So I'm just keeping it very, very simple. I'm not going into nitty gritty configs and the services and other things that I want, right? I'm just doing the MVP to be able to meet these requirements that I was asked. So there we go. Okay, let's install IIS. Great. Now I install SQL. Now the image I happened to be using was for another customer where I was doing a always on availability group and all the rest of it. And what I did just to keep things easier and to keep time down, because you know a Windows machine takes a lot longer than a Linux machine to test, to spin up and join the domain and do everything that it needs to do. I wanted to not have then copying large amounts of files over to be able to run and execute, right? So this actual image has got the SQL binaries in the C temp drive, as we can see there. Now obviously if that was something that I didn't have on there, I'd have a line before that to copy it from a network resource or a bin repo, HTTP bin repo or something, right? I'd copy it from somewhere and then I'd execute. So we've got the execution. You can see this is fairly long, so this is a quiet execution. Now I could also use a ini file and other things. Now I'm just using, you know, some of my things. I don't care if people know this password. It's for my lab. It doesn't really matter, and it's not exactly secret, right? So that's what I'm using. Nothing special. It's just your standard quiet silent installation of SQL with everything that I needed ticked for it to work. And then just because I wanted to be able to connect to SQL on it and I didn't want to muck around, again, you wouldn't do this, but again, just an MVP, I just disabled the firewall, right? I'd obviously want to then open up the right ports and do it all properly if I was doing it in a production or a customer site, but being in my lab, doesn't matter, right? So, okay, so that's it. So you can see that the cloud config is a lot different. Now I'm going to go ahead and deploy this now. Will take a bit longer. So deployment name, I'll just go cloud-base-init version 1, and we'll do the last one, and we'll deploy that. So that's going to go off and deploy. Now let's use some of the stuff that we've learned throughout this series, and how would we improve this? Like outside actually doing it a bit, you know, copying the steps, like copying the files from a repo and then running it, and you know, passing in the right parameters and the right firewall rules, right? Other than that, within the blueprint, let's have a look at what we could do. So for one is that I've just got my password here in plain text. That's not what you would want to do, right? So how about we change that up? Right? How about we create an input for that? So let's have a look at our inputs. Let's go to inputs. Let's have a look. I'll do password. Service. Just do service password. Yeah. So we do type, string, secure, we get secure string. String. Then we'll have encrypted, true. We'll have description as service account password. That'll do. And then we'll have anything else? Let's have a title. So SQL password. Alright. Sweet, got that. Oh, Okay, maybe it is that. Alright, so we've got our password there, and also, why don't we put in the instance name? Yeah. So SQL instance name, type string, description, instance. Yep. Cool. And we'll put a title in there as well. Oh, so you can put regex and other things in there as well, making sure that there's no numbers or however you want it to be formatted. But we won't touch on that. Title, we'll go SQL instance name. All right. So we've got them as inputs now. Now, where would we want to put these? So obviously, for our instance name here, is we want to put $ input dot SQL instance name. Oh, sweet. Then we put in the passwords here. $. There we go, and I'll just copy that to make it a bit simpler. Whoop. There we go. Then we'll just copy that in where it needs to go. Yep. 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 Alright, cool. So let's deploy this one and have a look. Password, so that's the instance name. So let's go demo name, deploy. All right, that's going to go off and do its thing. Now this one has deployed. Let's go and check it out. So it's 468. Here we've got cool 468. I think it's looks like it's probably in the middle of running a bunch of stuff, but we can see there that it is joined the domain. So it's on my domain here. And let's have a look. Let's just log into it here. Oh, look, refresh that. We've got IIS there. That's great. Now let's actually see if we've got have a look at. Oh, we've got something installing. Oh. That definitely looks like SQL. So when this is done, I'll show you the outputs of the logs. Cloud-based-init, so be under C drive, program files, cloud-based solutions, cloud-based-init, our log file. I'll word wrap that one just so we can see everything. So we can see from the logs is that it waits for the sysprep completion from VMware. So from the customization spec, it waits for it all, and then it goes through the plugins and everything else that you've set up. Now I haven't set up or not making use of half the amount of plugins, right? Like not even close. I'm using one, which is user data. That's pretty much it. That's all I'm using, and there's a heap of other ones there. But if we go down, we can see that it is currently running the user data. So the user data plugin is executing, and now user data is the same stuff you know AWS and VMware and Azure all use, and that's what cloud-init uses, right? So the user data plugin is executing right now, and what we will see is the output in here. So the output from the script that you run. So if you run a line that doesn't give you any output, like that install the web server, you know, when you do it in PowerShell, you'll get a little process bar. That's not actually an output. That's just what PowerShell is telling you. But there's no output, so you won't see that line in here. So it's usually a good idea to probably put a bit of logging in there. But the SQL silent install does input output to screen a whole bunch of different stuff. So we'll just wait for that to finish so that we can see it working. So it's just doing its thing. So just while we wait for that, here's the cloud-based-init website. So cloud-based-init.read the docs. We can see that we've got a lot of different stuff, but this PowerShell is essentially, or PS that one, that's what I did. And you can use Bash or you can run Python as well. You've got EC2 format as well, and Bash, which is runs rem cmd. And then you've got your usual cloud config, and as you can see here, you can write files with the encoding, the content, the path, what permissions you want, as well as, you know, setting time zones and creating users and their passwords, and, you know, a lot of the stuff you can do in normal cloud-init under Linux. Cloud-based-init will do under Windows as well. And then you can get into multi-part content, so you can actually start executing scripts. So, you know, probably a good way to do this, if you wanted to use this way, is that you could have your scripts in a code repository, and you just do a git clone as part of your commands. Maybe install git before you do that, git clone, and then you do your execution of those scripts that you want to run with the appropriate inputs, right? Rather than writing it out line by line in the code. But look, either way, it works. So let's go back to here. Looks like it might have done now. Yep. So as you can see here, we've got our user data out. The feature results, so that's obviously from the output of the doing the IIS stuff, but then we've got our this is what comes up when you install SQL through the command line, and you can see it's all, this is just everything from a success. There was no error out here. Trust me, it took me quite a bit of attempts to figure out the right way to do the execution line by line, and then it finishes and closes off. Now is installed. Awesome. Now let's have a look at our firewall. So trust me, the firewall is not generally disabled. And it's all disabled. So if I was actually, I think I've got SQL management on my Yep, I do. Got to start that up. What's the IP of this box? There we go. I'll just connect. Because I said built-in admins and because it's joined the domain, I'm a domain admin and I should be able to connect. Fingers crossed. Anyway. So, yep, cool. Looks like it's letting me in. You can't tell I'm not an SQL person, so I'm know enough to be dangerous. It's all there. Looks like it's all working like it should. Now, if I was to go back to this, I'm pretty sure if I go here and have a look at, there's our MS SQL Server, so that's our instance, and that was obviously hard coded in there, so hopefully the one that we've deployed next will actually have a different one. So, alright, so let's have a look at the next one. So this is the one that we put the input properties into, and let's see if it's actually installed some stuff here, right? So we'll just log in. Oh, that didn't work. Alright, so it's definitely, yeah, it's on the domain, great. We did before. If we have a look at, just make sure that that's the one. $472. 472, yep, okay, cool. This is that. We've got IIS there. Awesome. That's running. So let's check out the cloud-base-init. So we've got waiting for sysprep. Cool. Loader. Class loader. Yeah. Set user password. There's our user data plugin. Alright, there's our user data executing. So we can see we've got the same, don't have any error, so that's a good sign straight off the bat. Let's have a look at, not that. Alright, so it all looks like it's there. Let's open up. What am I opening up? This one. Cool. Alright, all them. Server agent. Oh look, there we go. So we've got demo name, which is what we obviously gave the instance. So let's just want to have a look at our services. Just to double check, let's go to SQL. Yep, SQL Server, demo name, awesome. And look, it's actually worked. So we've used our inputs. They've all succeeded because the services are started. Obviously, if that password didn't pass, that particular service account wouldn't be running right now. It would have failed, obviously. And yeah, so from that, cool. So if we have a look at our blueprint again, we can just to wrap it up. We can see that we've used these, the inputs, as in part of our commands. It's all worked perfectly. So on that, here's just really a quick video covering off using a Windows-based deployment, being able to use our inputs for our password and our instance name, but then also running PowerShell to install IIS, to install SQL, and to disable the networks. Not that you'd want to do that last one, but it's really just a demo showing that we can do this stuff on Linux, but look, we can do it on Windows as well. So hopefully that ticks some boxes and answers some of the questions that I've been receiving. Hopefully next time I can get on to delivering some extensibility and start the extensibility 101 video track. I'll keep adding to this as more questions come up, so please feel free, put comments in, and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible. I have a bit more free time being locked in the house, so it's a good excuse to dive into these videos. Until then, take care all. See you next time. Cheers, bye.